When you are a solopreneur and trying to do it all yourself, it's near impossible. But in this day and age with Zapier and if then, then that, a lot of great automations out there and a wonderful bunch of systems to make things easier, you must implement to save your sanity. Welcome to the Little Black Couch, a journey in entrepreneurship. Everyone should be an entrepreneur. The chance to overcome obstacles, solve problems, make the world a better place, and dictate your life on your own terms is worth the risk. My name is Aaron Stewart, and I have been researching or living entrepreneurship for almost 30 years now. Welcome to the Little Black Couch, a journey in entrepreneurship. Welcome to another episode of The Bruised Entrepreneur. Thank you for being here. Another commute podcast, if you will. But hopefully you had a good weekend. It was good to have some downtime. I like to unplug on Sundays, so try to stay off the devices and just try to spend it with family, church family, and keep it real simple and real calm, which is great. I don't know how many of you, right around 5, 6 o'clock on a Sunday nights, we get we term the Sunday blues, and just kind of thinking about the week and what's coming up next, and it's really interesting. It's always so busy, and I kind of have to gear up for that. I'm not one that gets super excited for Monday morning. I know that there's a lot of us that are. Sometimes, depending on the project, there's definitely time for that, but it's not every week, that's for sure. So definitely had my share of the Sunday blues last night, and then we kind of powered through them and had some fun together as a family, and it turned out all right. So, but today I had an interesting experience over the weekend, working a lot on systems and trying to make sure that putting into place these systems in order to when you take a new business and you start growing it out, you want to make sure that everything's in place. So as you do grow, and as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, when you start something, you try to create these systems so as you grow, you can start plugging in people to help you get these things done. And it's so important to get it sort of done at the beginning, right? And so I was kind of going through and putting systems in place for the different parts of what will be important to scale this, the golf business side of it. And that has a lot to do. I love to get into Zapier and automations, and when you can, one action triggers a bunch of other actions, it's kind of cool. So I got into, if I put something on Instagram, then I want that to. So I use the Facebook, Instagram to, if I publish on Instagram, it automatically publishes on Facebook, just because Instagram's owned by Facebook. That's a pretty easy integration. But from there, you've got to use different automation softwares and things to do different things. So I have it now, posting to Pinterest on a certain board, and I also have it posting to Twitter. So that was that aspect of it. And so now when I post to Instagram, I know that those 4 social media platforms are taken care of, that we've expanded that way. I've done something similar with this podcast, and also Data Access Golf podcast, where once I publish a podcast, a YouTube video of the podcast is created, put to a channel. The audio is then taken from YouTube. I actually had to do the automation from YouTube. That's then taken and put to SoundCloud and uploaded there. A blog post is actually also created on the WordPress side of the site. And that's just a place where there's a video, and it takes the text from the podcast and puts it there as a blog post. And then after the podcast is transcribed, we go in and replace that text. So it becomes kind of a placeholder in the blog where we can go and put the text. So, right, all these automations are there to kind of help us be more efficient. And that's part of this larger system. And so I started thinking about that and how important systems are. And once you get the right system in place, then then a lot of what you need to do is already taken care of, and you know that you can create, when a new project comes along, you can create these sort of cool things. And over the weekend, I've been craving oatmeal raisin cookies. And it's because while we were in Nashville at Funnel Hacking Live, we found this little place. It was in the same atrium as that's where the convention was. And there was just a little cafe / bakery / little eatery place that we stumbled into and got some things to eat. But I love a good cookie, and I saw they had oatmeal raisin cookies, and typically you can't find a good oatmeal raisin cookie. That's always kind of the joke. My mother had my Nana's recipe growing up, and she made some pretty good oatmeal, but they weren't raisins. She always put dates in them, and I'm not a big date fan, so I didn't always like the cookies as much as I should have. But they were really good cookies, but I'd kind of pull the dates out and throw them away. But they were still good cookies, and some of my favorites. So over the weekend, I was thinking about it, and this oatmeal raisin cookie that I had in Nashville was the closest thing I'd had to my Nana's recipe, except it had raisins in it. And it was a really good cookie. And so I actually just reached out to my mom and said, hey, could I get Nana's recipe for her oatmeal cookies? And, my mom's thrilled, right, to be able to share a legacy recipe like that. And so she took a picture of the card and sent it to me, and it's really cool, right? It's got Nana's old writing, and it's all kind of faded, and then, Mom later, put it all into a new text and sent it to me, so I had that where it was easier to read. But it was way more fun to make the cookies from Nana's old recipe, a photo of it, and to buy the ingredients and do all that as well. So believe it or not, we don't have all the ingredients to make oatmeal raisin cookies around the house right now. So, but anyway, I was going through this recipe and putting it all together, and I followed it exactly. I mean, I just went through and I did it exactly. And then when it came time to add in the raisins, right, which is the very last step, I wasn't exactly sure how, it didn't call for raisins, it called for dates, and I wasn't exactly sure that part of the system, that part of the recipe. So I threw in some raisins and made some up. I actually made some without raisins, so those that hate raisins in the family would still have some cookies. And we got them all done. They turned out just perfectly, right? They looked great. They tasted great. They were better than this Nashville cookie, which was important because I've been craving them so much. And I sat there thinking about it, and I thought, wow, you know what? This is amazing, because this recipe is still amazing. And it's probably, Nana died when I was really young. So this recipe is probably, I don't know, like 60 years old, 70 years old. And yet when I followed it exactly, the cookies came out perfectly. They were just exactly right. And I thought to myself, you know what? That's amazing. A recipe is just a system. And if you get a good system in place, and you follow it closely, then the result is a perfect cookie or a perfect project, and everything gets done exactly right. But with this particular recipe, this one called for dates, and I don't like dates. But raisins, that's great. I want raisins in my oatmeal cookies. But I wasn't exactly sure how many raisins to put in. And I'll figure that out. They needed more. I'll just put it that way. I needed more raisins in these cookies. So the next batch, there'll be a bit more. And so I'm able to take this system that creates a really perfect result cookie, right? Oatmeal cookie in this place. I'm able to then take that system and tweak it a little bit to make exactly the right thing. And then that will be a system that I can depend on to produce the perfect oatmeal raisin cookie every single time. So in our own businesses, it's a very similar process. We create this recipe or this system, and we put all these pieces into place. And we can go and model different systems that people have used. You can model my system for, social media content. You can model somebody else's system. And I know within ClickFunnels, I'm seeing different Trello boards to organize how you produce content and how you publish content. And a lot of different people do it a lot of different ways. You can hire experts that have systems in place and then can take certain aspects of your business, right? I can record this podcast and I can hand it off to somebody who has systems in place where they can go through, and out the other end is a published podcast on all the right platforms with the text published and optimized, right? So that system, that little part of the overarching this overarching opportunity, this overarching project can be taken on by somebody else who has a really good system. And their system might be so good and so efficient and that we're buying time back, and that makes it so we can go out and figure out other things and put into places other systems, and even systems that we run ourselves in order to get the business moving forward. And I just thought that was such an important lesson, such a cool parable, that it is possible for us to create business recipes that work, that we can then depend on. And when you can depend on a system, that takes a great deal of stress out of your life, where you know that you can just trust, you can get something to a certain point, you can then apply a system, and out the other end comes this perfect thing that you can depend on. And that's what we can grow and base our business growth on. It was just kind of a fun thing. And if any of you would like the recipe to Nana's literally perfect oatmeal date cookies, we'll just say oatmeal cookies, right? And you can put whatever you want. You can put chocolate chips in them. You can do whatever, but the base of the oatmeal cookie is awesome. It worked perfectly. Very hard to burn. We have a horrible oven right now. It's a gas oven, but it still did these cookies perfectly. So it was really cool. It's a wonderful oatmeal cookie system, if you will. So have a great day. Get out there and get it done. So grateful to you as entrepreneurs, changing the world, doing what most of the world just can't do, and doing it for the right reasons to change the world. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you for being a bruised entrepreneur. See ya.